It's time for On the Farm in Alabama, bringing farmers and agribusiness the latest news from Alabama Extension and the Auburn University College of Agriculture. Now here's your host, Alabama Extension Regional Agent, Eddie McGriff.
Good day. I'd like to welcome everybody to On the Farm in Alabama, and today I'm talking with Nick McMichen. He's one of our bean counters, and we're doing a series following our two growers in Alabama that have made 100 plus bushels of soybeans, and we're following their ultra early and their early season crops throughout the growing year. Now, Nick, you planted your soybeans on April the 18th, and looks like you got a great stand.
We did. Conditions were somewhat marginal, but we seem to have found that soybeans, the resiliency of those, we've started trying to get them in about the time we plant corn, or maybe a little bit earlier. And even though it was tough conditions, they've come up, and considering what they're going through now with cold temps and water, they are really seeming to thrive right now.
Well, you're in 30-inch rows. You planted 125,000 seed per acre, and the beans look like you got a really good stand. Looks like 85 to 90% of the soybean seed came up, germinated, and made excellent plants.
That's right. That's right. You know, our goal was to get. We planned 125,000, but we. If we could get up 110 to 15,000, then that was where we wanted to be with it. And we seem to have achieved that goal, and the beans are really, they're coming on at this point. We're about to make our first herbicide application. We've had excellent weed control, and right now everything seems to be on track.
Well, I think there's a few things we need to talk about, and that is planting depth. Now we plant these, or I should say you plant these seeds at 1.5 inches deep. That's on the deeper end of the recommendations, 1 inch to 1.5 inches. We like to plant them from 1 inch to 1.25 inches. And soybeans don't have the pushing power of corn. So sometimes if you plant them too deep, you won't have a good stand. But the most important thing is to plant them in moisture.
That's right. At the time that we were planting the soybeans, we had adequate moisture, and the forecast was for dry weather and higher than normal temps at the time for that time of year. So we decided to put them down to about 1.5 inches, and then of course the forecast changed, but they still came on through. It took them just a shade longer to come up than we thought it would, but they came up perfectly. And if looking at it now, you've got to get beans in moisture, and that's what we were trying to ensure that was going to happen. But you can't predict the weather forecast, but we think they need to be in that 1 to 1.25 inch range. We might have been a higher date, but the beans really recovered and did well.
One thing, growers that are going to plant early, and that is in cooler temperatures, when the soil temperatures are in the 50s, when most people normally think about planting corn, but early planted beans do really well. And so growers need to be patient, because if the soil temperatures are in the 50s, it may take them up to 2 weeks to emerge. And so a lot of people get worried that maybe we won't have a stand.
That's correct. I was very concerned about that, thinking that we might have an issue about getting the beans up due to the temperatures that turned off cold and the wet. But and the reading that I do and the folks that I follow on Twitter up in the Midwest, they were planting beans where it was spitting snow. They were actually planting them before their corn, and the common theme up there is they're trying to plant their beans before they plant their corn. So the conditions that we were in were far better than what they were doing, and the beans have done exactly what we thought they would after seeing that.
Well, now we're up at herbicide application, and you're going to apply Prefix, which is a combination of dual magnum and reflex, and that's going to give you good residual, plus it's going to give you good burn down of any weeds that are up.
That's correct. At burn down, we applied glyphosate, and we applied dicamba, and we applied 2 ounces of Valor, and we're going to come back with the Prefix, which is a pint of Reflex and a pint of Dual Magnum, and we will apply Roundup with that. And then right now it's very clean, and we fully anticipate that will carry us on down the road, and we may have to treat with another shot of glyphosate, but we're really getting good control with the residuals that we're using.
Well, that's the one thing I tell growers, if there's anything that you want to have a premium program on, and that is weed control. You want to have good weed control.
Well, actually, there's two things. There are two places that we found that you can't skip. Fertility and weed control, both of those things are an absolute necessity. There are other places that you might be able to cut, but those two things are essential: adequate fertility and an adequate weed control program, because weeds rob your crop of that harvest potential. So we spare no expense in doing that.
Well, one thing is, this is just not a small trial that you're doing. You planted 600 acres around April the 16th of early planted beans.
That's correct. You know, we had rented another farm and we were changing row patterns, so we decided we'd go ahead and plant the early beans, and they're actually on land that was in cotton, so it was ground that was able to be planted in a timely fashion, well drained, and in retrospect, I think we made the right move considering what the markets have done right now. And then once we do that, you know, the profitability is the number one goal, but you know, we're cotton farmers, but making good soybeans is going to help us to be better cotton farmers too.
Well, there's no sustainability without profitability.
There's no doubt about it.
And the other thing I would like to mention is that you're in 30-inch rows. We know there's a lot of advantage to narrower rows, but one thing I'd like to say, when you get to these early system beans, there's been a lot of growers that have made 100 bushel plus yields at 30-inch rows, and you're one of them.
That's right. You know, and the work that we've done with Eddie and Dr. Dennis Delaney, we did trials as far as row spacing, and what we found and what they did in the trials was that you know, beans on 30-inch rows versus 15 versus 7.5, there was really no difference until late in the season when you were trying to get a quick canopy. So the 30-inch rows, we feel like, allows us to get air infiltration down in the canopy to help the beans to bush out and to make more soybeans. Plus it allows us to be able to come back, and at R2 and R3 we'll apply potash to come back and to try to increase the size of the soybeans in the plant. So the 30-inch rows just offers more versatility versus planting on a narrow row.
Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning in to On the Farm in Alabama, but we really like to thank Nick for being with us and being one of our bean counters in this bean counter series, and you know, showing growers throughout the season just how the early planted beans look and how they're doing. So tune in to our next episode of the Bean Counters, and we'll be with Nick McMichen in Henderson Farms up in Limestone County. And I hope that it will help you be better bean farmers. Thank you.
Thank you.